على رسوله الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. بسم الله. Starting from page 89. So the things in that previous lesson we spoke and we went through quite a few things that we spoke about things that break the salah, then we spoke about a list of things that are makruh in the namaz, disliked in the namaz. So today inshallah we're going to start from the things which are allowed in the namaz and which are permissible in general. So Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, it said, it is recommended for one to place a barrier in front of him when praying. If someone passes in front of him, he may take the dispensation of saying Subhanallah or gesturing to the person to ward him off. If someone passes in front of a woman praying, she may ward him off yet without raising her voice. Okay, so here they mentioned here that the first line that it is recommended mustahab to place something in front of you when you're praying your salah, especially in a place where you know or you have the one or the assumption that someone is most likely going to walk past you. So like for example, we're praying in this masjid, someone's placed a chair over there in front of someone who's praying, right? So why? Because most likely someone is going to cross them. Most likely, like now, for example, uncle I just walked past, there's no issue with him walking past. Why? Because there's an item as a barrier in front of that person. What's the minimum requirement they're mentioning here? It should be at least 4 arms length, so you could say like 30 centimeters average, right? And a finger wide, the width of a finger. So you could say like a ruler, a size of an average ruler, right? That's the size it should be, like a recommended size. Obviously it can be larger than that, that's perfectly fine. The purpose for this is that it forms a barrier between the person who's praying and the people who are going to walk past.
Everything all right.
If the person who's praying, he's praying in a place where most likely someone is going to walk past and he doesn't put something, then he's at fault. Right? So imagine I'm praying in an open masjid. Ideally, like for example, if I was to pray namaz in this mosque, right, I'll pray at the end of musallas where I know the wall is in front of me, no one's going to walk past. If I was to pray in front of that door, now I'm asking for someone to walk past me because I'm praying in the wrong place. Or sometimes you often see people, they read right at the back of the mosque. The whole mosque from the front is empty, they pray at the back of the mosque. Those people, they are fault. Why? Because now they praying in the wrong place. They praying in a place where someone's going to walk past them. So the person who's praying, he should be mindful of where he's going to read the namaz first. Right? If he's reading in the right place and someone walks past him, then the person walking past, he's at fault. One narration mentions that if people knew the punishment of, normally people say that if someone walks past you, your namaz breaks. Your namaz does not break. Okay, what happens is the person who walks past, he is sinful for walking past. And Gharib al-Wara, remember from one narration that if a person knew the punishment or the sin of walking past, they'll wait 40 years. Right? That's how important it is and how sinful it is to cross someone who's praying the salah. This is without a barrier. Okay? So now there's 2 scenarios. One is a person praying namaz on his own. If he is praying on his own, then he needs to place a barrier in front of him. Ideally, you could say in front of his face, right? So it should be enough space for him to do sajda and there's some gap left as well. Like for example, from me to the tripod, that would be the average distance, like 1.5 meters, you could say. That barrier should be placed in front of him. It shouldn't be placed so far that it leaves a gap for someone to walk past, right? Then it defeats the purpose. It shouldn't be placed so close that he's finding it hard to do sajda himself. Right, so there should be a sufficient gap, you could say, like of 1.5 meters. So if someone is praying on this musalla, you put it at the bottom of the next musalla, right? That's if someone is praying on their own. If you pray with the imam, the barrier needs to be put in front of the imam. Right? So, for example, all these sufuf are made, people are in line here. The barrier is in front of the imam. You might be reading in a public place. Obviously, in the masjid, this scenario is slightly different. Normally, the imam is up against the front of the wall. Right? But if you're praying in public, if you're praying in school, for example, you're praying at the airport, you're praying in a public place, now where there's a chance of someone walking past, the barrier will be put in front of the imam. If someone walks past the people, it's fine. If someone walks past the imam, then that's when the issue kicks in. So the barrier should be placed in front of the imam. And now, like a masjid, for example, the imam's here leading the prayer, someone has broken the wudu in the first line. What does he do? He can just cross the people and go out. But he should look for the shortest way out. Not like that he goes that way, then he say like, let's go that way, zigzag through all the lines. Right? He should find the easiest and shortest way out. For this masjid, for example, he'll go to the edge wall and then he'll walk around the walls. So he's not disturbing the people or he's not barging through the lines. Right? So he should find the easiest way out of the mosque to go do his wudu and then join back in. So if he crosses the people, then there's no issue. Why? Because he's got a valid reason to cross the people. Or imagine in the second line, they've left a gap in the prayer. Third line, fourth line, fifth line is filled in. Someone smart walks in and he's like, there's a gap in the second line. I'm saying smart, not in a sarcastic way, in a real serious way. Right? So he sees there's a gap at the front. He can go and fill the gap up. So he can cross the lines and jump the 1-2 lines and go fill that gap up. Ideally, it should be the people next to it. Right? The person in the back line, he can step forward and fill the gap in the front line, in Jamaat. Or the people who are closest or furthest from the Qibla, imagine the person was here. Those people on that side, they can move up. And at the end, if everyone keeps moving up, the gap will be right at the end of the Saf. It won't be in the middle of the Jamaat. Right? Then the person at the back can walk forward, or the person from the back can. Sometimes no one moves because they don't know, they think my namaz is going to break if I move and fill the gap up. So then the person at the back can step forward if he knows the rule. Right? There'll be maximum 2 steps. And the ulama mentioned that he shouldn't raise his feet again the way he normally walk across. Right? That result to major movement. He takes 2 minor steps, like almost dragging his feet, you could say, and then he'll stop, pause, and then he'll take if there's need for another step, he'll take another step and fill that gap in. So there's no issue to walk in namaz for these reasons. Right? So you can do that, so there's no issue with that. But a barrier is mustahab to be placed. If you're on your own, you put it in front of you. If you're reading a Jamaat, you put it in front of the Imam. What if you don't have something that's the size of a ruler, for example? Then you can put anything that indicates a barrier. Imagine you have a jacket with you. You can take your jacket off, put it in front of you. Anything, and imagine you don't have anything at all. Then you can draw a line on the floor. At least you've done your utmost best, right? So you can just drag a line onto the floor. Imagine you're on sand or something. You make a line on the floor to show that that's like a barrier that you're praying salah. Go around me. Huh? So just keep that in mind. But like I mentioned previously, if someone is walking past you, you can do a gesture, i.e. if someone's crossing you, then you see some people do this. Or for women, they can just slap the back of the hand, like obviously they're praying like this, to warn the person that I'm praying salah, take heed, because they might be distracted, not paying attention, and they're crossing the person, so the person can make a gesture. But it shouldn't be a major movement, like we've done that before. If you do major movements in namaz, what happens? Your salah breaks. So you can't do, like I told you, that happened to me, as an experience when I went Umrah, and I seen the ladies like, it should bang, like, trying to batter that person, move out the way, I'm praying salah. Her own salah was gone, right? So you can't just start wrestling with the person to move them out the way. And some people get too excited that I know some thick rules and they start beefing in the middle of the namaz. So you have to use your aql as well. If that person is foolish, because sometimes that happens, you might put your arm in the way or you might indicate to them and they're like, look, check this guy is reading namaz and what he's doing. And then they carry on going. right? So you just use your intellect. Obviously, you judge the scenario yourself, and then if you know the person is not going to take the hint, then you carry on. That's his problem. But your namaz won't break if someone walks past you. Keep that in mind, right? So they mentioned the following things are not disliked. So if you're wearing a belt, remember I mentioned last week that if you're hanging something over your shoulders, i.e. the two, and like a scarf for example, that the two ends are free and they're hanging, that is makruh, that's disliked. But now they're giving you certain examples that it's not makruh. For example, you're wearing a pouch, right? They mentioned here hanging a sword, but you might be wearing, you know, those man bags, right? You might be wearing that, you got your possessions in there, you put it on the floor, is a chance it might get robbed. So you got your man bag around you, you're thinking about, you got all your stuff inside, right? Then you can wear that whilst. So to give an example, you've got a sword hanging around, it might be in battle or something, but here, you know, there's like a meme that goes around, they say, traditionally a legend was a person who pulls a sword out of the rock. Today, a legend is a person who turns up to a gathering with a crisp packet. It's like, you are a legend. Yeah, you bought the munchies. Yeah. So the standard of, you know, things drop, right? So then, obviously, when these books were written, the real men, real experiences that they had. So they mentioned here that they had a sword hanging around them. To our knowledge, that be if you have the man bag hanging around your shoulder and you're going for jihad in town, yeah, you know, jihad of the nafs, that is fighting your desires. Okay, so your salah won't break as long as obviously you're not fidgeting with it. So like sometimes you have to obviously be realistic as well. Your pouch, if it's the man bag you have on, and I've prayed like that. For example, when I went traveling abroad, sometimes you don't want to take your stuff off and might be a chance of you getting robbed, for example. Then in that case, sometimes when you go to ruku, the hand will fall off you. So if it's causing you to keep moving and being distracted, then obviously that's going to lead to major movement and so on. So you should be wise as well how you're going to go about praying in that in a pouch or whatever you call it. Another example they mentioned here is that praying facing the Quran, praying towards someone's back. Like I mentioned previously, that praying towards someone's face is makruh. So if someone's praying here and I turned around facing them and the guy's still praying, like if for example after Salah someone was praying here, I turned around and sat here and I'm gonna teach my class, I'm so and so and this guy needs to be quick, I'm at fault. For that guy's already praying, I shouldn't turn around and face him. This normally happens in the youngsters in the class time. Someone is praying behind you, say don't move, let the people finish the salah behind you, and the kids turn around and start looking at the guy's face, how long is it be? Right? That happens in class time, doesn't it? Yeah, that's not allowed. Those you're at fault. But generally, if someone is already sitting there, you shouldn't start your salah with him facing you. If they're facing forward, you can pray towards someone's back. Nothing wrong with that. You can pray towards a fire. It's not considered like fire as in a candle, for example, or a light bulb. You got a lamp there. Someone's like your idol worshiping the fire. You got a candle in front of you. There's no such thing, right? You're allowed to do that. Obviously, it has to be legit that you're using the candle or the lamp or the light. Or if someone is sitting in front of you, and they're whispering and they're talking, and you started the namaz behind them, there's no issue with that as well. Right? But obviously, if it's going to distract you in the other places, you should be doing the other places. If they're talking in the mosque and it's distracting you, say, brother, please can you just quiet down, I can't focus. There's nothing wrong with telling them as well. Another thing he mentions here, to kill a snake or a scorpion while praying namaz. And this can happen. It won't be, like I mentioned before, you go all out, right, in ninja mode, and then you start attacking the snake, the namaz will break. But this is obviously in reasonable level. Either if you feel that you can't do anything about it and you feel threatened, you can break your namaz. Like imagine the snake pops up and you're in namaz. Either you're going to kill the snake or the snake's going to kill you, right? most cases people leg it when they see a snake. So if you feel a threat, due to that reason your life's at danger, or you feel that it's at danger, with me it'd be with the cat, for example, right? No, just joking. So you can break your salah if you feel at threat. Or if you think that you're not really to the extent that you're that scared that you're going to break your salah, but it's in your way, you can ward it off or hit it and move it out the way. So it won't really break your salah to that level if you do that. It mentions here you can do 2 strikes, you can hit 2 strikes to ward the animal off or anything that's in your way while you're praying salah. Right? You can do that. Another point they mentioned here, you might be thinking why they mentioned this, but it has been mentioned, and that it is acceptable to pray salah on rugs and carpets. Okay, so there is a reason for that, and the reason is, and this is where, if you know that Shias, they pray and they put a stone, right? People know that they say Shia, they put a stone on there, because they with the understanding that sajda should be done on pure earth. So if you're praying in the park, they won't normally put a stone there. If they're praying on the earth, natural earth, they won't put a stone there. But when they're praying inside a mosque, because it's carpet now, so then they put a stone there, so when they do sajda, the head is still touching pure earth. That's the idea behind it, right? But as Sunni Muslims, that's not our position. Our position is anything pure, like we've done on the preconditions of namaz, preconditions of prayer. Anything pure is you're allowed to pray on it. Be your coat, jacket, floor, carpet, rug. Hence we have a prayer mat and we use prayer mats, right? So our understanding is that anything pure, you can put your head down and do sajda on that item.
Do you know when you're praying salah, you have to be able to feel the floorboards?
Okay, that's a good question why you're saying. You might have heard that. But the reason why they mentioned, one of the reasons why they mentioned here anyway, it links kind of to what you said, that you don't really have to feel the floorboards to that level, right? Yeah. But your nose and your forehead, when you go down the sajda, it should be firm on the ground. Hence, if it's like, for example, like a memory foam, you're praying on a memory foam, and you just hovering your forehead on, you won't really feel it's on the ground. Or if you're praying on like a really soft furry carpet or something, and it's really soft, then you put your feet in and your feet sink in. So if you were just putting your head on top of the fur, you won't really feel that's on the floor. Hence they mentioned that you should push your head down until you feel the firmness of the ground. So that's one of the reasons they mentioned about the carpeting, because these carpets are quite thick, but they're quite hard as well. So when you put your head down, you can really feel the floor. But some, really, like you can get carpets that are quite really thick, right? So when you put your head down, you don't really feel that it's fully down here. So you push down and then you can feel the firmness of the carpet or the ground. That's what is considered here. That's what they mentioned, one of the reasons they mentioned here. But even though they mentioned here in the footnote that praying on pure earth is mustahab, is desirable, you can do so, there's nothing wrong or nothing impure about that, and if you have the option, go for it, right? But here they also mention, like I mentioned, that's where the Shias, one of the reasonings for praying with a stone is from. Any questions on that?
Not for the Shia, did they like put the forehead on the stone, like next to it?
No, on it. Yeah, so they do the sajda on the stone.
But the nose.
Not this forehead.
Bigger or?
No, it's normally like a coin. Obviously everyone has their own, but normally they get one made, right? The way we have all these namaz gadgets now, right? Yeah, so they've got their own special gadget made for that job, so they keep it in their man bag. Yeah.
If it's made. If it's made, it's not really pure.
No, it's like you know the way we have, you could say, utensils and stuff are made from pure earth, like soil. So similarly, they make a coin out of it. So if you get mitti or a stone in that shape or carve it into that shape, this thing's pure earth, isn't it? You just carved into that shape or made into that shape. I don't know how they did. I've never looked into one of those, but it does exist, yeah.
If you replace a sword with like a rifle, it starts to.
That'll be same. Anything that you're wearing, like, so obviously them days, the examples of a sword, this is the job of a mufti. Right? This is why we need ulama and scholars, because items change, so the rulings need to be still changed, but the source of the rulings will be the same. So in them days when these ulama wrote these books or traditional fiqh books, they only had swords and knives and stuff like that, right? But as time moves on, swords are not used in battle anymore. So it'll be AK-47s and all those guns that are used now, right? In battle. So it'll be a mufti's job or a shaykh, a alim's job, a mufti you could say, who will adjust those rulings for that time. Right? And in the future, it might be something else. It might not be weapons of that sort. It might be something else people carry, like we have other things that people need to carry around. And now it could be also things like people who carry oxygen around. Yeah, so if their lungs are failing, they have those special designed bags that they have to carry around with them, or a drip that they have to carry around with them, medical drip that they take some medication for a drip. So obviously the rulings will change according to the item, but the concept is still the same. Are you wearing it or you're carrying it and it's dangling from your body such that it could cause distraction for you, how you go around it, and the same ruling applies to the swords and knives.
For the stone, does it have to be a stone? Can you just
Anything that's natural earth.
Can you put a leaf on
It won't be, because that grows and something they can do tayammum with. Yeah? Something that's easy for you to understand. Anything that you can do tayammum with. If not, check the chapter of tayammum. Right? G. Next, on page 90, breaking the prayer. So one is the namaz breaking, or the prayer salah breaking due to a reason that we covered before. Someone broke their wudu, the namaz broke. Someone spoke, their salah broke. Someone moved the chest away from the qibla, the namaz broke. That's breaking your salah due to a reason. Now it's breaking your salah for something that's happening, but the salah itself is not broken. You're actually breaking it for external reason. Right? So he mentions here now, it is permissible to break the salah. Ritual prayer here means the fard namaz. Right? Even at fard salah, if one is being robbed of something worth 1 dirham or more, even if it belongs to someone else. So imagine you're praying salah in public in a park and you take your trainers off and you put your trainers next to you, or your bag or your coat or anything. You started that salah. Some people, they know someone's there or might be taking the property. They keep praying salah, right? That person is there, right? And Allah's given them that leeway that they can break the salah and stop themselves from being robbed, right? So you don't think that I have to stay. People obviously, they think I can't break my salah, so you know what, I'd rather get robbed. And then they get robbed and they're like, oh, I was praying salah, that's why I couldn't stop the guy. No, you can't stop the guy when you're praying the salah.
How much is 1 dirham?
1 dirham is very cheap. Anything, there won't be that much value to a 1 dirham. In something, I wouldn't say a phone like it's only there. It could be, I don't know, like a decent pen you have. Yeah. It will be, it's most valuable.
It's like a gold coin.
It's like a gold coin, but
Dinar and a dirham. Dinar is, if I'm mistaken, I think so. It's like a.
it's a weight of a coin. I'll get out of the way for you, and then I'll convert it on bullion by post for you, and then I'll give you the modern. But I'll get that for you, inshallah. That's a good question. How many grams it is? It'll come forward in the zakat section, inshallah. We'll check that. I'll check it out for you, inshallah. But it's a weight, it's like a weight of gold and silver. That's what counts, right? It's like a weight. In them days, or traditionally, money was gold coins and silver coins. So then they make the weight of them like 1 gram or half a gram or 2 grams or 5 gram, and then that have the value and they'll trade with that. So that's where they get the weights from. But I'll check in modern currency what would be considered of that value, right? But anything decent like your trainers, your clothes, they generally will fall into that category. So your, I don't know, it could be your watch, your glasses, or whatever it is that you take it off. So normally all those things will generally be covered in that. But I'll get the exact for you, inshallah. And he mentions here, even if it belongs to someone else, so you're reading a namaz and you know someone else is getting robbed, you can break your salah and stop that person committing a crime or save someone else's. He says, a shepherd may also break the prey if he feels a wolf is going to attack the flock, right? His sheep. So a shepherd can. So obviously, a mufti will tell you where this can broadly apply to other scenarios as well. So, for example, this goes down. You're at work, for example, and you're responsible of someone's property at work. You're working in, I don't know, a warehouse, and you're starting to do your salah, and now there's a chance that the person's property that you're supposed to be responsible over, it's going to be destroyed or something's going to happen to it. You can break your salah to protect that person's property. Obviously, it's similar to being stolen or damaged even. If that was your job and now you're praying your salah, and that because of your salah you have obviously left that on or whatever it is, then you can break your salah to prevent that from happening.
You know, if that happens, do you have to restart the whole namaz or just carry
Yeah, no, you have to pray your namaz again if you break your namaz. Okay, next dimension here is, it is wajib to break the salah if one hears someone calling for help in an emergency. Right? So if you know any kind of emergency this is, so you're at home and anyone from your family, you're praying salah upstairs for example, and someone from downstairs is yelling for help, you can obviously distinguish if it's your mom saying get down for roti, or you're going to get two jutiyah, or is your mom saying get down, I need serious help. Obviously, naturally in the voice, the tone of the voice, you'll be able to tell what if he's serious or if it's just the average day you're getting told off like normal, right? So, if someone seriously needs help, then you can break your salah to help that person. And not if you can, the ulama mentioned is wajib for you to save someone's from danger. You break your salah, right? You break your salah, you help that person. And this is like a simple example would be, imagine there's a blind person and they're going to walk into something, or they're going to fall in a hole, or they're going to walk into the road and you're praying your salah. You can break your salah and help that person out. Why? Because he's in danger, and you know that he's in danger, but he's not aware of the danger. You can go and break your salah and help that person out. They mention that here in the next part anyway, but I've covered that. Yeah, so generally you can do that. Another reason is a midwife can delay the salah if she feels the baby or the mother is at risk, right, during birth. The midwife, she can delay the salah, and even if she feels that their life is at risk, she can even delay the salah until she missed it even. Imagine it's in a life and death situation, which a woman generally is, right, during birth. Then the midwife, if she thinks that if I leave this woman now, her life or the baby's life can be at risk, then she can delay the salah until she feels that they are safe enough for her to go pray her salah. Right?
So, if that was to happen, was the midwife's namaz, will it be qaza or ada?
Depends when she prayed it. If she prayed it still in the last minute, then like she delayed it for example, then it'll be considered normal salah. If she missed it, then it'll still be qaza. But obviously she has that valid reason for being qaza, right? Obviously, these excuses are what ulama have given and mentioned that will be you could say, accepting the court of Allah. But that's the woman's judgment of what she feels at that scenario, if her leaving them would be dangerous or not. Right? Every scenario will be different, so the person would be responsible. Same with the person who's traveling and they know if I stop now, and this normally, people, I know they give is a bad stereotype of Pakistan. They say when you travel that don't stop in this area because people gonna rob you, right? That can happen anywhere. That even happens in the UK. But obviously, what happens, we be negative towards our own country and we look down because we live here in the West. And don't do this in the night. You're gonna get robbed. This can happen. That's gonna happen. People be there, highway robbers. They're everywhere. Right? And that even happens in the UK. People get robbed at traffic lights when the car gets jacked up. Yeah, so that's common. That's common. It's not something. But if you feel that you stop your car because you can't pray your Fard Salah in the car, right? Fard has to be prayed standing up like we've done previously. So you feel that if I stop my car here and pray outside, and I might get robbed, or there are people, it's dangerous, my life's going to be at risk, my property is going to be at risk, then you can keep driving until a safe destination and then pray your Salah there, right? But those obviously have to be valid reasons. It can't just be because someone told me that it's dangerous here, but realistically you see there's no danger about, then you can pray your Salah there. Another thing, I don't know if they mentioned in the footnotes, but I'll mention anyway. One is, like I'm going to give an example of your parents calling you, can you break the namaz? If you're praying your Fard Salah, I'll give you the distinction that if they seriously need help, then you break your namaz and go help them. But if you're praying your namaz and your mom is just calling you downstairs, come down, maybe she needs just general help, maybe can you just take that off the shelf for me, put the chair there, I don't want to get on the chair, it's wobbly, like you can balance. So sometimes those kind of scenarios, so it's not that serious, then you carry on praying your Fard Salah. Then after your Fard namaz, you immediately go down and answer your parents, and you do that. But if you're reading Nafil namaz, and your parents are calling you, if they're aware that you're reading namaz, then naturally, like for example, your mom walks into your room, you're reading namaz, she's like, when you're done, come downstairs, I need your help. Now she's conscious that you're reading namaz. So you can finish your namaz and then go help her. Right? Obviously she's seen you read namaz, so she means, when you're done, come downstairs. Because she's conscious that you're reading namaz. Now if she's calling from downstairs, but she doesn't know you're reading salah, or it could be he, your father, right? So one of your parents are calling you downstairs, but they don't know you're reading salah. If it's Fard Salah, you finish your Fard, then go down. If it's Nafil namaz, you have the option. But you can break your Salah, go downstairs, do what they need you to do, and then because you started the prayer and you broke it, you definitely is wajib not to make that Salah up. But for Nafil namaz, you can break and go downstairs and answer your parents.
What about Sunnah?
Sunnah would come into Nafil. So anything apart from Fard, this mentioned. So you know when I mentioned Nafil Ibadah, anything apart from Fard and Wajib will come under Nafil. So Sunnah, Sunnah Muakkada, all those, but you need to make those up there. You have to make those up. Right? Any optional version that you started, you have to make that up. For example, on Monday is Sunnah to fast. I'm fasting on Monday, and then my parents are like, let's go to someone's house, someone's passed away, or something's happened, or someone's called you over for dinner, and now you're in a tricky situation that if you don't eat, they might get offended. Now you can break your fast, because it's an optional fast, right? Because now you're in a tricky situation where you might hurt someone's feelings for not eating in their house. So you can break the fast. You don't need to say, oh, I'm fasting, and then tell them about your deeds. They're like, oh, I know that happens because someone was fasting, he went to someone, a relative's house, and they turned around and said, he said, I'm fasting. And they said, it's funny, you're always fasting when you come to our house. Right? Yeah? So, no, that can happen, right?
That happens to me.
Yeah? So then, in that scenario, you can break your fast. because now that person getting upset is an optional fast, you can break the fast. But now, because you broke it, after starting it, now it's compulsory for you to do the fast again. Same with nafil namaz. If you started an optional worship like salah, and then you broke it because of a valid reason, now it's compulsory for you to make that salah up again. Okay, so now it's not nafil anymore. You can't say, oh, it's nafil anyway. No. Because you started it, you have to go make sure you make it up now. Right? The same with the fasting example. And so that's a clear distinction between if someone is calling how to or when you can, when you can't. So summarize, if it's an emergency, someone's calling you, you break your salah and you help them. If it's not an emergency, then if you're reading your fard, you finish your fard off, then you go help them. And if it's not an emergency and you're reading your nafil, you can break your nafil and go and help them. If they know you're reading namaz, you just finish your nafil off and then you can go help them and pray your salah afterwards.
What if you just think they're calling you but they're not and you're still breaking the laws?
Then as soon as you realize, okay, they're not really calling me, maybe calling your other brother or sister, and then you realize afterwards, you just pray again. So, but nothing happens. No, you don't get guna or anything. You just go get on with it and you go pray because you broke it. Next, it mentions that was got to do with breaking the prayer. Once started it for external reason. Now they mention abandoning the prayer, not reading salah. He said the one who abandons the ritual prayer, either fard salah altogether on purpose or out of laziness, is to be beaten until he bleeds and then imprisoned until he resumes praying salah. Alright? So here, obviously in the modern context, this won't be a normal, you never ready Fajr salah, your dad gets the cricket bat and starts battering you, yeah? It doesn't work like that. Obviously, you have to, it's a legal process, people in the right, like for example, in a Muslim country, certain people will be given the authority to carry out punishments. So, i.e., you go to court, you get proven guilty, and then you're beaten, and then you get put in prison. That is person who purposely doesn't read namaz.
Like a qazi.
Yeah, like a judge or like a qazi to be, right? But it won't be a normal, you wake up, you never read Fajr, you like, that's why you read Fajr. I just felt lazy, so I never read it. That's a dral. Yeah? UFC, choke slam, or all this going on, WWE, no, it doesn't work like that. Right? So, generally, obviously, it'll be a legal process. So you can't take the law, Islamic law, into your own hand. This is something that people misapply, right? And they start taking Islamic rules and Islamic consequences into their own hands, and they start giving Islamic punishments without the judge, without the Muslim governance or going through the legal proceedings. Any Islamic punishment has to go through court, proof, evidence, guilty, punishment. If you haven't gone through those stages and you're like, I know he did it because of that reason, and then you beat him up, right? That you are sinful for that. You get guna for that generally.
When you say that someone doesn't read the namaz, you can actually go to court, tell them, or they haven't been reading namaz, can I beat them up?
No, you won't be you that. They're not going to say, okay, you see me, alright, you beat him up. No, it's going to be like for example, what happens in the UK? You get caught, go to court, you're guilty. The security guard who's in the courtroom, they say, okay, put the handcuffs on him and take him to the prison, right? It'll be the same like that. Okay, put the handcuffs on him, take him to whatever room or that place or that area, and then that item that which is used to whip that person to beat, right? You know, Islamically here that you whip that person, the ulama, it's not like you grab a whip and start slamming the person, no. The ulama mentioned is as if you had a book under your armpit. Imagine you're holding, how much can you swing your arm now? Not really, right? Without the book falling. So it won't be full on lashes. It's just a way to discipline that person, that don't do that crime again. But That's one thing, but obviously it doesn't apply here in the UK. It's not a Muslim country, there's no Sharia law, and it won't go through that legal proceeding in that sense. But the father or the mother, they can be firm on you on this reason for missing your namaz. Right? They can be strict with you. They can, like they say in the West, where the punishment is so light, like the child has done something really bad, say go sit on the naughty step. Right? In other words, go relax on the stairs. Yeah? Those kind of punishments don't do nothing. Generally, it'll be consequences, as in good discipline would be, you take the child's things away, like if he's got a PlayStation, don't give him the PlayStation. It doesn't mean for one day. Don't give it to him until he's feeling it. Right? And until one child might be like, sometimes when I give attention to someone, like, I don't want to mention names on camera, right? But everyone knows who he is, yeah? Oh, Wasim who's not here. Yeah? When I give these guys, I say, you guys are staying back. First, for 2 seconds, they think, what day is it? When it's Thursday or Friday, they say, alright, we can stay, we're here till 10 anyway. Right? That's the answer they normally give you. Yeah? Because, so until 10, their attention won't stop. So if you're disciplining really, right? If your child can stay without his mobile phone for 1 week, and then after 1 week, he's going to start getting upset. The punishment starts after the 1 week. So the first week when he takes his phone away and he's like shrugging his shoulders, I don't care. Then that's when the discipline hasn't started. So when on the 10th day he's coming down, can I have my phone? Then you tell yourself, okay, now his punishment starts. This is when he's feeling that he's missing out on his phone. So like if I was to give Sufyan a detention today, for example, right? When this class finishes, when all you guys leave, then I say, okay, now your 1 hour starts. Now he's going to be upset that I'm going to sit here for another 1 hour. No. Why? Because mentally from home he came for 10 o'clock, right? Whatever time he's programmed to stay, yeah? So naturally, his detention will start after that time. So this is how, as a side note, when you do tarbiyah of children, you keep this in mind as well. And don't just say that, okay, I'm going to confiscate his PlayStation for the weekend. The kid probably most likely is going to be like, I don't care. Right? The punishment starts when he starts caring. That's when he's gonna learn a lesson. That's when his discipline will start. Right? So when you put him on the naughty step for 5 minutes and he's just chilling there, twiddling his thumbs, detention hasn't started. When he's frustrated, when he's upset, like he really wants to get off the naughty step and he starts crying, then you say, okay, your hour starts now. Right? But obviously you don't tell that to the child, otherwise he'll know when to, he'll start crying the first minute. Right? So Islamically, you don't take any punishments in your own hand. So here they mention, i.e. you be firm on that person. Here they mention, obviously you beat that person and you put them in prison, i.e. you make them feel that what they've done is extremely wrong. Because one hadith mentions that the difference between a Muslim and a non-Muslim is namaz. Right? The one who basically, if you abandon your salam, the purpose is like kufr. Some ulama have literally taken that the way it's mentioned. That if you purposely miss namaz, you have committed kufr, you disbelieve. Right? That's purposely abandoning your salah. Whereas Imam Abu Hanifa, the Hanafi school, have taken this position. That we won't, even though the hadith mentioned that. Right? So that's something to keep in mind. If the hadith has mentioned that namaz is the key distinction between a kafir and a Muslim. So that's something that we need to really think about and ponder. That if we purposely miss namaz, what's the state of our iman? Right? But the Hanafi stance, nevertheless, is you imprison that person until he does tawbah and starts reading his namaz. If he doesn't still read namaz, he stays in prison until he fixes up and starts reading. Right? And mentions the other side note, the same ruling applies for the one who doesn't read or doesn't fast in the month of Ramadan. It says he is not killed, however, unless he denies the obligation for something or he belittles it, i.e. he becomes a kafir. Right? That's another topic as well. A person who disbelieves becomes a murtad. He abandons Islam. Right? There is one position that a person who becomes a Muslim and leaves Islam then in a Muslim country, in a Muslim Sharia place, going through the legal rulings and all the court and judge and everything, then his punishment would be a death penalty for leaving Islam. After leaving Islam with full conviction. One is like a person is faking, he's not really a Muslim. He's not obviously not a Muslim in the first place. But a person who's fully accepted Islam and then left Islam in a Sharia place, in a Muslim country, going through the legal proceeding. It won't be that, people do in some countries that they take the law into their own hand and they say this person, he insulted the Prophet and they kill that guy. Right? And this happened in Pakistan, it caused an uproar. Even though some ulama say, he did it out of having that in mind, that he lost his senses and out of great passion for Islam, he killed that person. That's for Allah to judge for that person. But if everyone is given that pass that you can kill someone because they disrespected Islam, some people just generally don't have aql, and they'll be like, that guy's a Wahabi, he disrespects the Prophet, let's kill him. That guy's a Shia, he disrespects the Prophet. They don't know what disrespecting what means, right? So they misapply that. A Wahhabi will be like those Brelvis, they worship idols, they worship graves, they'll go kill a Brelvi. Where does it stop? So that's why the ulama mentioned that it shouldn't, that's something that someone can't take on board themselves. It should be going through a legal proceeding and found guilty, and then they are convicted, and then the judge and the government, they will carry out the punishments. Any punishment, major or minor. Right? So no one has the right to take the law into their own hands. Why? Because people are too dumb, simply put. And they'll start beating and killing the wrong people. Right? Just because I told this, and they basically hit innocent people or harmed and took innocent lives. But obviously in the UK, this doesn't apply. So there are 1-2 people in the UK that they have killed people because why? They disrespected Islam or they done this, and they have went and killed people in the UK, right? I know there's a recent case in Scotland that someone did that. He killed someone for insulting the Prophet ﷺ, and he obviously went to his shop or something and killed him and stabbed him to death. Why? Because that guy insulted the Prophet ﷺ. In the UK, that's not the law, right? So obviously, if they get away with it, as Muslim, this is our iman. He might get away with it in the dunya, but he's not going to get away with it in akhirah. So even in the UK, because we can't apply those rules, it doesn't mean the guy got away with it. Like they say Hitler killed all those millions of people. As a Muslim, we believe he's going to, if and when it happened, who it happened to, whatever the details are, right? Then he will be accountable for that on the Day of Judgment. Or these people who are killing and bombing innocent Muslims in Yemen, Syria, Palestine, and they're doing in the name of justice, be it America, UK, whoever it is, right? They might get away with it now. We might be weak as Muslims from that point of view. We can't do anything about it. But our iman is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will deal with them on Yawm al-Qiyamah, simply put. So don't be taking misunderstandings from reading this, and this is how people become extremists or misapply the Sharia. Okay, so leave it to the professionals. If you're not sure, ask ulama inshallah, and they will clarify things for you. Next, so they haven't mentioned here, but like I mentioned, that is one position that if you purposely leave salah, purposely abandon salah, is kufr. Right? Even though the Hanafis don't take that position, but that position does exist. So don't take namaz lightly, and it's the difference between a Muslim and a kafir basically. Right? So take your namaz seriously. Even if you're feeling so tired, you had the most difficult day, and you're thinking, Isha namaz, bed, Isha namaz, let's go bed. No, tell yourself, I'll do my minimum. I'll read my 4, 5, 3 witr. At least I've done the minimum requirement, and don't miss the whole thing altogether. Next is praying on a riding animal, or praying on, inshallah we'll do that one. And next lesson inshallah with the prayer of a traveler. Salatul Musafir, inshallah.
If you read just your fard and witr, and you like say you can't be bothered to read your sunnah, is it still like guna?
The way you ask, yes, it would be like you said, if you can't be bothered, right? That's different. One is, for example, you might be tired, you woke up early for school, like in the summer, Isha is at 11 o'clock, isn't it? You woke up for school at 6 o'clock, you're absolutely tired by the time Isha starts, and you're half asleep. Then, and that's for your age, for youngsters, right? Then if you did the 4 fard, 3 witr, and you went to sleep, that's fine. But purposely leaving a sunnah mu'akkada, right? You guys done that before in masjid anyway. But if you know, purposely leaving a sunnah mu'akkada, emphasize sunnah, you are sinful. You are sinful. Making a habit of missing it, then you definitely sinful. But one of missing, like just a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you read your sunnah. Thursday, we tired, you just read your 4 fard and 3 witr. You won't be sinful if you had a valid reason. Valid reason has to be a valid reason in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It doesn't mean you watch the movie till 12 o'clock and now you think, you know what, proper shattered, just leave a fard and witr. Now your fault for delaying the namaz. And that normally happens, like, it's human nature, it's always happened to me as well. You're like gone out somewhere, probably out with your friends, gone to someone's house, and you think, you know, I'll read my salah in a bit. Before you know it, it's like 1 o'clock in the night, and then now the shaitan kicks in, like full or half, quarter. What should I do? Should I just leave my fard? Should I just do the shortcut? What should I do? Now I purposely put myself in that scenario. Best thing is, you've got wudu, get in namaz, over and done with. At least you won't have the battle at the end of the night. Shall I miss it? Shall I not miss it? Do the salah properly, and then chill, do what you need to do, and then at least you won't be missing your namaz. But generally, you have to judge it in your own scenario, what situation you're in, and therefore then you can miss your certain action of namaz. But making a habit of it, you will be sinful. So the best is you read it as soon as the time starts for youngsters, and then go to sleep if you need to go for school or need to wake up early. But don't, like what you said, when you can't be bothered, right? That's an idea that shaitan gives you. When you can't be bothered, that's when you should definitely read it. One is that you're generally tired, right? You don't mind reading it, but you're so tired that you feel half asleep. Then you miss it, it's different. One is that you got time, you can do it, but you can't be bothered, it's long. 17 rakats for Isha, forget that. Right? Do 7 and I'm out for you. Now that's the shaitan tricking you. So then you do it, then you purposely do it. Right? Want to kill your nafs, want to tell the shaitan, I'm not falling for your trap. And then Allah make it easy for you. Once you start, it gets easy. But once you start missing, then it gets more harder and harder because you're spiritually getting weaker and weaker. So try not to make it a habit after, inshallah. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives all the tawfiq. Any questions? So inshallah we'll stop here. Next lesson we'll start from salah for a traveler. I think we'll salah for a sick person, inshallah. آمين اللهم آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا ورزقا طيبا وعملا متقبلا. اللهم يا منزل البركات، اللهم يا رافع الدرجات، اللهم يا أحل المشكلات. وصلى الله تعالى على حبيبه محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.